going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Multifamily Mondays here, and this is Matt Grizicki, and this is
Ada Carr.
All right, and just kind of wanted to bring you another episode this week, get you guys caught up with how things are going in our business and some of the strides that we're making right now, and decided to share a couple of our KPIs with you all here this week. So in the last week, between the two of us, we made about 320 phone calls. We submitted 9 offers on properties, and then we made 2 new really solid buyer contacts. And then lastly, number of hot leads. These are off-market leads of which the owners have said, yes, we'll consider selling, and was in a price range that actually has the potential to pencil or is a really good deal. So those are some of the KPIs in the last 6 or 7 days that we've pieced together, and kind of keep doing that on a week-by-week basis so you can kind of see the snowball effect as things carry over. So anyway, how do you think this last week went?
It was pretty eventful. I feel like I've made a decent amount of calls. I still didn't really hit the 200 that I wanted to, but I was pretty close. Other than that, I feel like we need to, in my opinion, get like more buyers on the phone. I feel like this last week I strictly focused on like just sellers. I like it a little bit when the week is split up between some sellers and some buyers. Some days focus a little bit more on buyers, others on sellers. Mm-hmm. But regardless, I'm still happy with the outcome.
For sure. And just today, on an offer that we submitted last week, we got the confirmation that the offer was accepted. So that's some good news.
Oh, yeah.
And in my previous brokerage, whenever we were submitting offers, I was making 15 offers a week on on-market properties, off-market properties combined. And I'd say every other week I would get about 1 contract back. So I would get about 2 properties under contract a month. So, and those are for investment properties, investment offers. And we looked back today, and for this one buyer that we've been working with, we submitted about 30 offers almost on the dot, and sure enough, we just got one. So anyway, super excited for him, and we're gonna run that to the finish line here. Should be closing on or before June 6th. So anyway, kind of like the worldview, things at large going on right now.
Scary stuff.
Scary stuff, for sure. So if you're not familiar with BRICS, BRICS is an organization of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And combined, they have a lot of the oil production. They've got some communist type ideas politically, which, here in America, we're capitalists, and that's not exactly how we go about business. But they are actually talking about forming together to make a new currency that would be backed by gold and precious metals. And this is where I think the U.S. had really deviated and began this whole inflation journey and just disproportionate equity divergence throughout different social classes, and coming off of core inflation measures and things like that. And if you go to WTFhappened in 1971.com, you'll see what I'm talking about, that website I showed you. Mm-hmm. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Super interesting resource, and influenced me to go buy some gold and start gold stacking. So the other thing that I had heard about gold is that this was from Robert Kiyosaki. It was either something like they would have to burn about 60% of all the US dollars in circulation in order to put the US dollar back on the gold standard.
Yeah.
Or they would have to raise the price of gold
significantly.
1,800%.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, take your bet. They're not going to burn 60%.
Yeah, obviously not.
So,
with a case like this, with what BRICS is doing, even investing in gold, do you think they'll outbalance what they're trying to really accomplish?
I think it gives it stability. It's actually backed by something other than the faith in said government. And right now, with our current political leaders. I think that a lot of the citizens in a lot of other countries around the world have lost faith. And then you look at all the hyperinflation with all the money printing and stuff. 60% of all the currency worldwide, US dollars accounts for 60% of that. Or at least it did 2 or 3 years ago when I last looked. And that being said, every single time there's something major that happens with the US dollar, it has a big ripple effect with all these other countries. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I see, something like this happen, and they're trying to, gain the upper hand and get a currency back on gold standard. And I could almost see the US dollar going back on a silver standard, but I don't know about gold because it's just too far beyond what it once was. So anyway, that's kind of some interesting topics where you can read more into that again, and it's the BRICS, spelled BRICS, that is looking to go and create that. So other topics of the day, you've been messing around with ChatGPT a little bit. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I found that if you use it as Google, like the same way that you search in the Google engine, it's not as responsive. I feel like you have to be a little bit more creative. You can one thing that I found that helped me out is if you're trying to research a specific topic, try to find a profession that someone's actually working in, and say act as certain profession, and that way I guess the algorithm that it's using, it comes out with much more sophisticated responses, and I find it way more helpful. And at this point, I'm using it for, I wouldn't say more than Google, but it's very interesting. I'm enjoying it.
For sure. I think I had heard Gary Vee say that using ChatGPT was like using Google search engine for the first time. And it really is, because it's kind of mind-boggling how smart that it is. And there's a guy, his name is Billy Jean, and he was a keynote speaker at some big conference, and I don't know how I just got down this rabbit hole of AI, and there's so many different tools that you can use to leverage your time. And he was talking about the new business framework versus what it used to be. And it's all kind of revolves around one central person, and then you have all these other leveraged tools that work and function in other ways. And so that was really interesting to see. But you can make videos. You can literally just type in I want a song that sounds like this, and it'll generate it, and you can use that in the background of your videos. Maybe we'll try that. You can actually AI grab your face and then make that person start talking like it's you. Send memos throughout your company, and it's not perfect. It's still in its infancy, and who knows where it's going to go. But the amount of time that it saves you to do some of these things is really profound. And so it's going to allow people to do more with less, and that's all what technology is about. It's doing more with less. So definitely use that in your business if you haven't already. I think it's pretty interesting, and it'll be cool to see where that develops and how we might implement it in what we're doing. The next thing that I'll say is the importance of tracking data, and not just data, but your finances as well, because it's still tax season, and I'm going back through all my expenses from last April, March, June, July. And as I'm going through all of that, I really see wow, I was going out to eat too much. I got one closing, and then for the next 3-4 weeks straight, I'm Chopsticks Express. Yeah. I'm going to Outback Steakhouse. And of course they're promotional meals, so they're tax write-offs at the end of the day. But that's still less money that you get to use to put back into your business.
Yeah, of course.
So, that's kind of how I tend to look at things. And at this point, for me and for a lot of other business owners, I think it is critical to show a certain amount of income if you're going to go buy something else, because if you're not showing the income, then you're not going to get approved for a loan. If you can't get approved for a loan, then you got to go raise the money elsewhere. So sometimes it's better just to do that than it is to not really show any income. So
yeah. I'm even enjoying I feel like I've never really done something like this in the past where I track my weekly KPI and I get to really see week by week how I'm progressing, like adding even like new little tabs under when we first started. I believe it was like 4 or 5 tabs now. It's a little bit more filled out,
I think
organized.
it was probably like 3. It was like number of calls made, like first and foremost,
exactly,
and then it grows from there.
So just seeing the quantitative. I'm sorry. Data just progress week by week is really satisfying. You get to see right in front of you, and I mean I think it's something to work towards.
So something this is an idea I got from Patrick Bet-David in his book, and he said that at the end of the year he would take all the employees and he would put their face on a baseball card, and on the back it would have all of their KPIs and stats on the back.
That's kind of sweet.
And you would get it as your own individual baseball card,
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting, and who at the end of the year doesn't want the stats on the back of that baseball card to be loaded?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I thought that was a really cool idea and something that I'm gonna look to do in the future. And so that kind of brings me to my next thing is like we're tracking all of these things because as we're generating all of this work, we're also generating momentum and motion, and motion creates motion kind of thing. So you want to get busy, you want to have that energy in your business feed off to different sections with your calls with your clients, your calls with potential sellers, whenever you're at networking events, different things like that. And as you continue to pour into it, it's gonna come out in multiple different ways. So and it just pays dividends in ways that you wouldn't always expect. So this kind of leads me to the next thing, which was not getting discouraged by a small deal. So again, something I picked up from my last brokerage, which was that we were wholesaling stuff, so some of the fees are bigger than others, and at the end of the day, you might go home with $3,000 or you might go home with $13,000. So obviously, if you have a buyer that's cash and they're buying a deal for $300,000 and you have 2 deals, same purchase price, except your wholesale fee in the middle is bigger on one than the other, your natural tendency is, well, go with this other one. But if that buyer likes a smaller one, do the smaller deal, because if you're doing the smaller deals, the big ones will come. So that's kind of my next thing is just focus on the dominoes and just keep on pouring in and keep doing the consistency. And that's ultimately what really creates a winner, is that regardless of how you feel, you still show up and perform. And that's really what we're doing here right now, is just showing up every day and performing regardless of how things are going. I mean, I see us in here every day more than I do the vast majority of others out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and guess what? Now we're producing contracts, and that's really our product is producing offers and contracts. So, everything else, we're here to strategically align with you. And if you want help analyzing your deal, if you want help making offers, if you'd like to see how we strategically get above market prices for your property, if you want to list it, give us a call. And be happy to work with you here in the future. You can navigate over to hancoholdings.com and take a look around there, peruse what we have available, check out some of our other podcasts. And other than that, you have any? You had some Q&A actually stuff that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I feel like for the majority, we like to talk about mindset and just overall like how it's changing. And I've always kind of wanted to ask you as well, like when you first got in this industry and you were first, I believe you said did you say you started in Maryland?
Yeah, so I actually got my Florida license while I was in Maryland, and then I had helped my mom out doing for sale by owner for our house up there.
Yeah. So going into it, would you say like you've always had the same mindset, or I mean, what are some like things that you've changed throughout your mindset, like over the years with your mindset that's helped you get where you are right now?
Well, the biggest thing for me is like the relationships, because everybody looks at real estate, and real estate has produced more millionaires than pretty much any other industry, by and large. And so if you're just looking at just the numbers and all that, you're missing one of the biggest pieces, which is the relationships, the connections that you make with other people to really build a whole well-rounded team and be able to provide the best service to the clients and the customers, and recognize that these are some of the biggest transactions of their life. And for you to be in charge of that is a really big responsibility on your shoulders, and you have to know what you're doing. And if you're not giving it all you have, you're really doing that person a disservice. And is that really something that you want to be ill-equipped with? I'd say not. So, really being able to speak to more than just the facts, and going above and beyond for your clients, and always focus on the long dollar, never the short dollar, because it's not about one transaction, two transactions. It's about a lifelong relationship and transactions to come. So that was one of the biggest things. Is I would summarize that as the long dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. That kind of leads me to the aspect of leveraging while you're doing deals. Like what are some things that people, like even like sellers, that like they've used on you that you've learned from, and vice versa, like some different leveraging tactics that you've used on other people while negotiating deals?
Well, one of the most important things is to never put yourself in the driver's seat. And some of the other people, diplomats, stuff like that in other countries, even if they speak, like I think the Chinese or Japanese do this, where if you're in a meeting with them, they'll still have a translator, so that the person that you're negotiating with actually has time to think about what you're saying and respond accordingly. And so if you kind of take a step back from that and you make yourself the translator, then you're able to take the information from your buyer, translate it to the seller's agent, and then to the seller. And so when you kind of have some in-between buffer spots, it really can be a bit of a power move as well, and to have them working on your behalf. So that would kind of be one of the things, is to just make yourself the middleman, but never use the word I, especially in negotiations, because it's not about you, it's about the interests of the main party. And even if you might be a part of that party, it's about like the greater good of that party.
Yeah.
So that's one thing for sure in negotiations. The other thing is what and how questions. I mean, that's textbook.
Yeah.
Never split the difference. It's just what and how questions, because you can't respond yes or no to a what or how question.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that was foundational for me. Let's see, what else is there for leverage in communications and things like that. It's more about a dialogue. It's not so much about just checking off your list of questions, and being a little bit more fluid. So if they start talking to you about their dog, then talk to them about the new dog shop that just opened on Central, or talk to them about some like dog show at the convention center or something like that. It doesn't always have to be directly related to buying and selling property, because if you can kind of show that you're more personable and have a conversation, that will pay dividends. And if they like, know, and trust you, then you're way more likely to get the business. So just being a little more fluid, and it never hurts to do a little bit of research as well. Like even just today, we were punching in some people's names into Google, and go to LinkedIn and see that they're the owner of a property management company, and today is the first work day of the month.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're doing collections. They're probably super busy, and so I looked ahead and said, hey, I know that you're probably super busy with collections today, but I just wanted to take a couple minutes to get your thoughts on XYZ thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're like, oh wow, this person actually like took the time to recognize that. And I think it goes a long way with people, rather than just blast texts using Twilio or, MailChimp campaigns and stuff like that. So I just think that sometimes if you can make it more personable, people really do appreciate that.
It goes a longest yard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like that because you go into the conversation kind of, I don't know how you want to look at it, but like I look at it as like, it's almost like you have more ammo for any other like objection that they might throw at you, or you're just overall more prepared for the conversation. Mm-hmm. Instead of just going in without knowing too much about what the property is, who the owner is, what have they done in the past, other properties that they might own mm-hmm. around that property and whatnot. But the third thing I wanted to speak a little bit about, you kind of answered it with the some other things that you talked about in the past, but the aspect of speed in a deal, like the fact that you said that we show up, we do the work every day, is kind of a part of it, right? Because one of the first things we like to do as soon as we enter the office is kind of check the hot sheets, see what's on the market, see what kind of things are selling around us. And it's just like that aspect of speed, like being the first one to contact them, kind of showing them like, hey, like I'm actively out here making deals, I'm writing up contracts, I'm not just another like Joe Schmo like out like that you might encounter. So just the overall of speed, like has that like worked for you in the past? And I don't know, like what can you talk about?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, speed will save you millions mm-hmm. long term, and I mean millions, like maybe deca millions, because if you can submit an offer on a deal that's getting ready to get listed, and you're able to go to your buyer, and you're like, look, we've got to put this together now. You put together your whole package, you do your underwriting, you say worst case scenario, most likely scenario, best case scenario, you put all that together, and then you make your offer accordingly, mm-hmm. and you can turn that around quickly and know where to spend your time and focus on, and you get that out there, you might get the deal before it goes live. And if it goes live, now you're competing with so many other potential buyers, and stuff like that. So you really can save yourself a lot of money. And that exact instance happened actually a little bit less than a year ago, mm-hmm. and we got the property done for $600,000, and there were 4 or 5 other comps on the same street that sold for $700,000 or above. So in that one deal, saved the buyers over $100,000 in equity. And
wow.
Think about that, and that was just because they were able to sign the contract back after being able to have a 10-minute conversation with me, and I did all the other background work, sent them the offer, said it looked good, signed, got it back, I sent it to him right away. Mm-hmm. Seller gets the offer, they say like, all right man, I'll give you 24 hours first dibs on this. Like, oh.
That's huge, yeah.
Yeah, and that's because, we had a prior relationship with the seller that we had reached out to, and then the seller called the other agent, and then the agent put it on the market right away. And the seller was gonna work with us to begin with. So then they had taken it down off market, and then we were in negotiations. So anyway, that's one instance of how we saved the buyer over $100,000. And then in other scenarios, speed is key, because if a seller is motivated and they need money for another deal, or they need to go move somewhere, and they don't want to pay the holding costs, the carrying costs of an asset or property for several months on end, and they're like, if you can close me out of this deal in less than 30 days, I'll give you a 5-10% discount. And 5-10% discount on a $10 million offer, it's a pretty big deal. And that happens. I mean, we're looking at a very similar scenario to something like that here as of recently, the big industrial deal. So, it happens, and it can save you millions. So that's one instance there.
Yeah, sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about it.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. So thank you guys for another episode, and we'll get back to you next week. All right.